Present.
Present. Here. Present.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, good morning, Director.
Good morning. Morning, Mr.
We're going
Chair.
to start with 9/37/2024 by Councilmembers McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew contract number PS 2023-0298 with PMG Executive Program Management LLC to provide executive airport development programming, financing, planning, design, and related services. Director.
Good morning to everyone. So over the course of the first year, staff has been very satisfied with the Pasley Group's performance as our executive program manager for the Terminal Modernization Development Program. There are a number of tasks which have either been completed or are currently underway since they began supporting our efforts last fall. Those include a deep dive or analysis of the master plan document to determine its current applicability because conditions have changed primarily due to impacts from COVID-19. So we wanted to have a review of that document to especially the areas focusing on passenger forecasts and terminal needs. So that's one of the things that they have been working on. There's an ongoing process regarding recommended revisions to the portion of that document, as I said, that really focus on those areas, but also more specifically layout, phasing, schedule, budget. There's continued discussions that we're having with our airline partners and other stakeholders that are informing on this work and contributing to the evolution of the program. But there are several other components that Pasley has been leading on our behalf as well. They have essentially become an integrated part of our team. They have 3 members of their team that are based at CLE, and we have regular, daily, sometimes multiple times per day interaction, including several standing weekly meetings as the efforts for the Terminal Modernization Development Program ramp up. So we would like to have this first option approved, which is a 2-year period, so that we can continue our work and get closer to some of the more significant elements of the program to come.
Thank you, Director. Okay, and these are the folks, so we passed this legislation last year.
Correct.
You're in front of us asking to exercise one of the renewals on it.
Correct.
You've stated that you're happy with their services.
Yes.
Do we know, so the budget is $3 to $9 million annually.
Right.
Do we
Yes.
know what we spent in the last year on?
I don't have the
on this
exact
contract?
numbers, but the range is there because the type of services are going to vary from
Right.
year to year, and we would expect that they will likely increase as more of, let's say, the scope and the concept are agreed upon. We're in alignment with our airline partners, which we're doing quite well in that regard now. But I would expect that we will continue to utilize their services more heavily going forward. And I should also point out that the airlines have approved the funding for this, so they are aware of Pasley. We all work very closely together on the planning efforts for the TMDP,
Okay.
and they did in the enabling funds that were approved at the beginning of the year. That did include funding for year 2 of Pasley's work on our behalf.
Okay. And so if you could give us that number, what we've spent
Okay,
down so
yes.
far prior to the finance meeting. We've got that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, and this is so it's a 5-year contract. Each year requires additional legislative authority. I'm sure we put that in there last year to ensure that we were following everything going on with this contract. What questions do I have on the contract to follow the terminal modernization plan? Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, did you say that the airlines are paying for this?
Through the chair to the councilperson, that is correct. This is work that is specific to the terminal program, and so they approved early this year $175 million in what we are calling enabling work, and one of the line items in that total dollar amount was to fund Pasley for year 2.
All right, and Mr. Chairman, to the director, the airlines would be okay because this is a broad base, right? $3 to $9 million. So if they come back every year at $9 million, the airlines are okay with paying the total of $45 million?
So through the chair to the councilperson, once we have a defined scope and concept, there will be a budget, a program budget that will include the dollars that we anticipate investing in Pasley and their efforts. So it would sort of be rolled into everything once we get to that point, which we expect will occur sometime next year.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the director, you said the airlines have allocated $175 million for the scope of work that needs to be done.
Through the chair
Correct.
to the councilperson, there's a list of efforts that were included in enabling projects, and one of those was for us to continue funding Pasley. Another line item was for demolition of about 12 structures at the airport, one of which is the Sheraton, which is very much underway now,
good.
by the way. So, yes, so this was one line item for year 2 for Pasley. And again, it's with the idea that we are going to get to a point where we have a scope, a concept, and a budget that supports that concept and scope. And within that amount will be the funding for the further years for Pasley services.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the airlines are okay with a $9 million cap on this?
Through the
Per
through the chair
year.
to the council, I don't think it's about the dollar amount. It's about the services that are
No,
provided.
no, I understand that, but I don't want to get jackpotted up by PMG, who says, hey, listen, our floor is 3, but our ceiling is 9. Let's go to 9 because it's there.
Through the chair to the councilperson, we as staff analyze the work that they're going to do, the scope for each year, and so that's a discussion, if you will, in terms of understanding exactly what is going to be rendered, what types of services and at what funding amount. So that's something that we do have some control over. It really depends on what the needs are to support our efforts in advancing the TMDP.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, to the director, just to reiterate, just so that the public knows, this is not coming from our enterprise fund. It's not coming from the general fund. This is all being paid for through the airlines.
So through the chair to the councilperson, yes, I mean, enterprise fund, but it is these dollars specifically were allocated for enabling projects, and year 2 funding for Pasley was included.
From the airlines.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. And a really great reminder to the public, too, on the airport funding. It's paid for by the airlines. So if you use the airport, you pay for it, and really, if you don't, you don't. Okay. Any additional questions on 937-2024? Hearing none, 937-2024 stands approved. Please sign. Director 944-2024 by Councilmembers McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of labor and materials necessary to remove rubber and any other contaminants from paved surfaces for the various divisions of the Department of Port Control for a period of 2 years with 2 one-year options to renew exercisable by the director. Hold 1 second on that, Director. And just as a reminder on the previous piece, we've required additional legislative authority every year. So that will be back in front of us next year to get updates on where they are, and just, yeah.
And Mr. Chair, if I might, I also anticipate that we will provide an update to the committee at our upcoming.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'm
yes.
sure there'll be updates in between as well,
Periodically,
but
yes, sir.
just by legislative authority, that will come back to us every year. Thank you.
Certainly.
Okay, 944, Director.
Yes, so rubber from landing aircraft builds up on runway surfaces and must be removed for optimal pavement conditions. The airport's required to monitor the accumulation of rubber buildup on the runways and have it removed when necessary. The FAA requires this action based on the amount of runway operations each month. We have equipment in our inventory to survey the runway rubber buildup and perform that function monthly. However, we do not own the equipment needed to remove the rubber on the runways. That is very expensive and is only needed occasionally. Typically, it's performed twice per year. These services also include the removal of paint markings. We're required to remove excess paint buildup when necessary prior to applying new paint. And again, the airport does not own the equipment needed for this practice, as it is only periodically needed. Requesting the authority to enter into one or more requirement contracts for labor and materials necessary to carry out this airfield work. The initial term is to be 2 years with 2 one-year options to renew, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you, Director. And so from your perspective on this, it doesn't make sense to buy the equipment. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay, because we're only using it, it's like renting a carpet cleaner or something. It may not make sense to buy it, but you
Right.
can rent it
Correct,
when
sir.
you need it.
Yes.
Okay. What questions do I have about removing rubber throughout the airport system?
Chairman.
Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, there's rubber that collects on the runway. Where does this rubber come from? Is it in the creases of the asphalt, concrete, or is it from the planes itself?
Through the chair to the councilperson. So ultimately, it ends up being both, right? Because when the tires from the landing aircraft connect with the pavement, it's sort of a hard hit, and there's a buildup of runway, or rather rubber on the runway at the touchdown points at either end, depending on which runway is being used. So there tends to be a heavy concentration of area where the rubber is building up on the runways, and that's because of where the main gear of the aircraft are touching down upon landing. So it ends up being across the surface, into the grooves, and that's the work that this contract would be responsible for performing the removal of.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, but that's predominantly from the tires of the aircraft.
That's correct,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Any other questions on rubber removal from the airport? Hearing none, ordinance 944, 2024 stands approved. Please sign. Any additional comments for the director? Questions, comments, concerns while he's in front of us? Okay. Any comments on your end, director?
No, sir, just want to say, other than to say thank you for attending the event last week for the Sheraton demolition.
Yep.
We did finalize the internal processes for getting all the permits approved on Friday of last week, and then Bauman Enterprises on Monday began heavy demolition work. So
great.
the two-story portion, about half of that is gone already. And I expect, and they're also working sort of on the back side of the building. I expect then the tower will be the last that they will work on. It'll be more tedious, but very excited to see that moving forward and what it signifies for the future for us
Yeah.
at Cleveland Hopkins.
I appreciate that, Director, and I'll just note for all of our friends online that are mad that it's going to be parking, I know you guys got hit on that. Let me be the first to say, as the author of the Complete and Green Streets Ordinance, as the author of the Pedestrian Access Ordinance, as the author of the Decorative Street Painting Ordinance, and an advocate for multimodal transportation, the airport, well, of course, we want people to take the train to the airport
Absolutely.
otherwise, but the airport is a regional asset, and people drive to it.
Correct.
It is what it is. So we need, additional parking at the airport. It's critically important for its functioning. And it's a unique regional asset. It's not like, just people from the city of Cleveland use it. People use it from other states, not only throughout Northeast Ohio, but other states as well. So for all the chatter about mad that it's going to be parking, well, guess what? We need parking at the airport. And do we wish everyone took the train to the airport? Absolutely.
Certainly.
Yeah, Councilman Slife said if they're worried about the climate, they shouldn't be flying. But anyways, the point is, it makes sense for the airport. We know we've had parking pinches there, so having additional parking at the airport, definitely short term, will be a relief.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, Director. This Committee of Transportation Mobility, Cleveland City Council is adjourned.